everyone, Violet here, and I have a lot of historical romances, and I normally just default to reading Regency slash Victorian slash things in between there, and I don't want to do that next year. So I've made a challenge for myself so I don't have to do that next year. And it is the Broadening Your Historical Romance Horizons challenge. Is the complete bingo board. There is also going to be a story graph version of this in the description that you can look at. And so, yeah, this is just to get you to read historical romance that isn't just sort of Regency or Victorian. No offense to those, and you might be able to sneak some into some of these prompts, but I feel like we really default to that setting, and there's a lot more out there. So I'm going to be going through the prompts, explaining them a little bit, and then I will be providing examples where I have them from my shelves. So to give you a bit of a jumping off point for yourself if you would like to join this challenge as well. So the first challenge is working class. There is a novella series called The House of Devon, I believe, that is from a bunch of different authors, all about the staff that work at a Regency house. So again, you can fit Regency back in, so something like that. These are some books that I think could fit. 2 westerns. So we have Only You by Elizabeth Lowell and Crooked Hearts by Patricia Gaffney, and also a Harlequin category romance that came out this year, A Naval Surgeon to Fight For by Carla Kelly. Next is Asian. Next, we're getting into diverse racial representation. Now, I do not have an Indigenous romance box here, and the reason is that I did do some research. I'm just not really comfortable setting you to read racist nonsense. So if you know of some Own Voices work, please let me know. I just couldn't find it. But we're going to start off with Asian. The author I have for this is Jeannie Lin. So she started out in category. Her first book was Butterfly Swords. She is currently working in a sort of historical mystery series, the first of which is The Lotus Palace, which is great. So she's a great option. Another person I would say you should probably check out is Courtney Milan. Her Wedgford Trials books are all Asian romances, and they've come out recently. So that's also a good place to look. Next, we have Black. So this could be African Americans, people from the Caribbean, from Africa itself, just Black people across the diaspora. So obviously the sort of main person that would work here is Beverly Jenkins, right? So she has a ton. Any Beverly Jenkins historical, you're gonna be good with this challenge. There are also some Alyssa Cole books that fit this. We also have Lydia San Andres in category. She writes books, I believe, set in the Caribbean, so those are also options. Next, we have Latinx representation, and unfortunately, I don't have anything on my shelf for this, but there are things like The Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas, The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. You could probably argue for a lot of Silvia Moreno Garcias. I know that they are not romance first, but I would be fine with you squeezing a lot of hers in. There is also a Lydia San Andres book, Compromised into a Scandalized Marriage, that might also work for this. Next, we have interracial. This could fit just basically 2 characters from different racial or ethnic backgrounds. So the books I have for this are The Portrait of a Duchess by Scarlett Peckham, A Marquis to Protect the Governess by Parker J. Cole, A Viscount for the Egyptian Heiress by Heba Helmi, and The Marquis Makes His Move by Diana Quincy. This whole series would actually work for this, and I think her most recent book, which I'll put up here. Okay, next we have Western. So this is anything set in the American West. I will say that some of the books I pull up might have some problematic things. I haven't read them yet. Again, check your content warnings on pretty much everything. Angel by Joanna Lindsay. Lorraine Heath actually started out writing Westerns, and Sweet Lullaby, I believe, was her first. The Outsider by Penelope Williamson. Someone's Been Sleeping in My Bed by Linda Jones. Hummingbird by Laverle Spencer. I believe she also has other Westerns. And then a Harlequin historical author named Lori Grant. So we have Devil's Dare and Lawman. Okay, next we have medieval. This is a very broad category. There's like several centuries in there, but basically anything with like a knight is a medieval, right? This is my largest category. I have a lot of books to get through here. Okay. Charming the Prince by Teresa Medeiros. Desire by Amanda Quick. For My Lady's Heart and Shadow Heart by Laura Kinsale. The Deed by Lindsay Sands. Heart of a Knight by Barbara Samuel. So Wild a Kiss by Nancy Richards Ackers. A Kingdom of Dreams by Judith McNaught. One Night Only by Julia Latham. Wild by Jill Barnett. And then we've got some categories. Redeeming the Rogue Knight by Elizabeth Hobbs. Her Warrior's Redemption by Michelle Willingham. Forbidden Love by Maura Seeger. Lady of the Lake by Elizabeth Main. And Heart of the Dragon by Sharon Schultz. Next we have Viking. And, I have My Fair Viking by Sandra Hill. She has a ton of other Viking books. And Defiant in the Viking's Bed by Joanna Fulford. Next we have Highlander. This is pretty much anything set in Scotland is going to work for this, or a Scottish lead character. Again, you can get some Regency overlap in here. So I have A Whisper of Roses by Teresa Medeiros. Annie Maya Banks Historical. The McCarrick Brothers Trilogy by Cressley Cole. May McGoldrick's The Dreamer. I believe they also have other Highlander books. Kathy Maxwell's The Marriage Contract. The Highland Guard series by Monica McCarty. The first book I have here is The Chief. And in Harlequin Historical, The Highlander by Ruth Langan. Next we have Pirate. So this is a book with a pirate or a former pirate. I'm going to count those because some of the most like iconic pirate books are like, I'm a former pirate. And it's like, okay, you're once a pirate, always a pirate. Case in point, Gentle Rogue by Joanna Lindsay is like the pirate romance, but he's like a former pirate. Yeah, You're at sea the whole time, bud. You don't fool me. Julie Garwood's Guardian Angel, I believe the villain in this is a pirate. And Captive of My Desires by Joanna Lindsay. You could also, if you were interested in a darker romance, try Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. That would also fit in the polyamorous category. Okay, the next section we have is the gay / bi / pan queer man section. Sadly, I don't have any books on my physical shelf for this, but I can direct you to some people. Kira Andrews has a book called Kidnapped by the Pirate. I believe she has some other male historical romances, but that one would work for this and the pirate tier. We also have KJ Charles. Some of her books are paranormal-ish, so that would also work for that. Freya Marsk, Jordan L. Hawk, and Kat Sebastian also all work for this tier. A lot of their books do. Next is sapphic books. So these are books with queer women in them. This can be same-sex pairing or not. I don't care. I'm not gatekeeping like that. The Perks of Loving a Wallflower by Erica Ridley. A Liaison with Her Leading Lady by Lottie R. James. And The Duke's Sister and I by Emma Claire Sunday. Some other people you could try are Olivia Waite. She has a bunch of sapphic historicals. An Island Princess Starts a Scandal by Adriana Herrera, and The Perfect Crimes of Marion Hayes by Kat Sebastian. Next is Polyamory. This is a book with 3 or more individuals that are all in a intimate relationship together. I don't have any of these on my shelf either, my apologies, but I can point you to a couple titles. Wicked Passions by Nicola Davidson. I think she has a couple more polyamorous books. Her Band of Rakes by R.A. Steffen, and What a Duke Wants by Viola Gray. And then we have the transgender / gender queer category. Again, I don't have any on my shelf for this, but I can point you to some people. If you're interested in YA, there is Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Navoa, A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall, Any Book by E.E. Ottoman. Next, we have Gilded Age romances. So Joanna Shoup this is her bread and butter, honestly. Just throw a dart at one of her books. Sweet Talking Man by Bettina Cran, Big Bad Wolf by Linda Jones, and A Courtship to Full Manhattan by Lori Robinson. This actually came out this year. Next, we have books that range from the 1900s to the 1920s. So for this, I have Blind Tiger by Sandra Brown. Both of the Lydia San Andres books are set in the 1900s. And set fully in the Roaring 20s, we have The Rebel Daughter by Lori Robinson. I would also say Let Us Dream by Alyssa Cole, I believe is also in the Harlem Renaissance era, so that one might be worth checking out. Then we get to the 1930s through the 1950s, and this is basically where most places consider the cutoff for historical romance is like the 1950s. My number one recommendation for this is the Burning Cove series by Amanda Quick. I own 3 of them. The Other Lady Vanishes, Close Up, and The Lady Has a Past. There are, I believe, 7 books in the series so far. You could also try a Harlequin historical called Diary of a War Bride by Laurie Robinson. This is a World War II one. Okay, next we have Paranormal. So this is a historical work that has vampires, werewolves, gargoyles. Your steampunk works could work here, like Beck McMaster or Gail Carriger's books. Susanna Allen's Shapeshifters of Beaumont series. The Vampire Who Loved Me by Teresa Medeiros. Uncertain Magic by Laura Kinsale. The Vampire Dimitri by Colleen Gleason. Lion's Bride by Kathy Maxwell. My Lord Vampire by Debbie Rowley. And I would consider time travel to work here too. So something like Outlander, where the character's traveling into the past, could work, but I am going to also say that something where a character from the past jumps to the future also makes sense. So Breath of Magic by Teresa Medeiros. I believe this is a duology, and the other book has a character going into the past. So the next one is a book set in Europe but not in the UK. It's just a country that's not in the United Kingdom, right? So I will say that books that have like good chunks of it set outside of there also work. So even though Loretta Chase writes in Regency times, some of her books take place in Paris. So something like Silk is for Seduction or Lord of Scoundrels, good chunks of these books takes place in Paris and not in the UK, so those could work. Captives of the Night, I believe, might be entirely in Paris, so that also works. Beast by Judith Ivory. The Bride's Bodyguard by Elizabeth Thornton. A Rake Most Likely to Rebel by Bronwyn Scott, he's in Paris. Yeah, no, I think these are all in Paris. Surrender the Heart by Nina Beaumont. Well, this is not in Paris. This is everywhere. Sky O'Malley by Bertrice Small. Next we have Gothic. So something with spooky vibes and houses with secrets. And someone might be getting murdered. That sort of deal. For this I have Stealing Midnight by Tracy McNish and After Midnight by Teresa Medeiros. Next we have Erotic, which is a book with a large focus on a sort of sexual relationship. This is sort of in the eye of the beholder, but some examples I have of this are Ruthless by Anne Stewart. These characters are like linked to a sex club. Feel like it very much fits. Passion by Lisa Valdez, and Her Ladyship's Companion by Evangeline Collins. The first book also fits this bill. Next we have an epic. This is in my opinion a book that's over 450 pages, which means it's a thick book. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, a lot of these are going to be older books. So again, check your content warnings. Here There Be Dragons, okay? So obviously, again, Sky O'Malley fits. Penelope Williamson wrote a lot of these. Heart of the West, which would also fit as a Western. Once in a Blue Moon, and The Outsider. Kathleen E. Woodowis also loved a chunky book. The one I have is Forever in Your Embrace. This is set in Russia as well, so could also fit in the outside of the UK prompt. Scarlet by Alexandra Ripley. I do own this for a reason. The Shadow and the Star by Laura Kinsale, and Defy the Eagle by Lynn Bartlett. Next we have disability. So this could be characters with physical impairments, mental disabilities, stuff like that. You could go with the classic Scarred Hero route with something like Ravished by Amanda Quick, or Yours Until Dawn by Teresa Medeiros. The Outlaw and the Lady by Lorraine Heath features a blind heroine. The Arrangement and The Escape by Mary Bellog both feature disabled heroes. And Laura Kinsale loved a disabled hero. We have My Sweet Folly, The Prince of Midnight, and Flowers from the Storm. And finally, we have novella. So this is going to be, for the sake of this, a book that is under 200 pages. So there are a ton of independently published historicals online that you could try. Short story and an anthology collection could work. Like, I believe there's one like called How the Duke Stole Christmas that's got 4 short stories in there. You can read one of those. This is a bind-up of 2 stories, and the second one, Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know, is very short. Also, Avon had a brief stint where they were doing these like impulses, which were short books. So we have The Gunslinger by Lorraine Heath and The Last Wicked Scoundrel by Lorraine Heath. Okay, so there are 24 prompts. If you do the bingo board, you have a free space in the middle. If you do the storygraph version, or both, or whatever, you just fill it out that way. that means that in theory, you can just do 2 of the prompts a month and you will be done by the end of next year, which is super cool. And that's what my plan is. So I'm going to try to like randomly roll to see which ones I get and where I'm gonna head next year. So I'm excited to expand my historical romance horizons, really get into some stuff I haven't tried before, read a lot more historical romance physically, because a lot of these don't have audiobooks. So it's going to be an interesting time, and I hope that you all join me on this journey. Thanks so much. Bye.